It tastes so good. I don't know what this is, but like if you, I don't know, heat it up and serve it, I'm sure that I would be very, very happy to eat it. Even though it's just a bowl of mush. And yes, I'm sorry that I'm drinking wine, but like, it's Sunday night, it's meatball night. We're gonna drink some wine. You know, it's gonna happen.
That's the cookie.
Welcome back. I'm Francisco, and it gives me great pleasure to announce to you that tonight is meatball night. Meatball night, is there anything more fun? Is there anything more special? Is there anything more festive? I think that meatballs are the perfect combination of a dinner that is homey, casual, friendly. Like there's nothing fussy about it, but it's also not that quick to make. A good meatball requires patience. A good meatball requires time. I think that it is enough work to consider it a special occasion meal. So I'm gonna start with finely chopping one onion. Oh no, I should start with the bread, sorry. Some recipes will tell you to add like breadcrumbs. I actually like to use good bread. Like I think that it makes sense to use like a beautiful loaf of bread. If you're already going to serve the meatballs with beautiful fried bread, which you should, I'm gonna teach you how. This bread is a beautiful campagne loaf, which I'm going to cut into chunks, like into manageable chunks. So I'm gonna start like sort of tearing the bread. And this bread I'm going to add to a bowl and I'm gonna drizzle with milk. So I'm just gonna soften the bread. This is a mixture that will eventually go into our meatballs. And I'm just pouring enough so that I can then, with a spoon, start turning them in that liquid. It provides structure to the dish. It provides kind of bulk to the balls. I'm gonna season with salt. This onion is gonna make me cry, and I am wearing contact lenses, which means it's very, very strong. I'm just kind of breaking up with my spoon if I see any big chunks of bread, dissolving the bread a little bit more, just with the edge of my spoon. So this I am adding my ricotta. I'm adding 150 grams, then seasoning as I go with salt, with chili flake, with pepper. I'm adding my herbs. And I'm grating some Parmesan. I'm adding 2 eggs. Like I'm basically like seasoning this entire mixture, and I am stirring and stirring and stirring and combining as necessary, because this is eventually what the meat is going to dive into. And then grating 2 cloves of garlic. So the idea is for the meat to be landing on this incredibly fatty, textured, flavored mess. And then once it does, we're just gonna form into balls. Yes, there is raw onion and raw garlic in this, but I'm still gonna taste it a little bit because I wanna know if it's seasoned okay. I want to taste enough of the Parmesan. I want to taste enough of the herbs. I want it to have a little spice. And more importantly, I want it to have enough salt. So I am adding a little bit more parm. It's good. A bit more salt. Keep tasting it. If it doesn't taste enough, add salt. Okay, so now that I am satisfied with how this tastes, I am adding my 2 eggs. And then I'm adding my meat. So once the meat is there, I'm not gonna wanna overwork this mixture too much, because I like to keep the meat as unpacked as possible. That's going to allow them to release more fat, and I think that they have like better consistency. So in terms of meat, I am using a combination of ground beef and ground pork. My ground beef is 80% fat. I like to lean more on the fatty side and not the lean side, because that is just gonna render more flavor. It's gonna make for a better meatball. I'm just gonna keep it in the fridge just to make sure that all of these flavors have some time to marinate together, to get to know each other. And in the meantime, I'm gonna be prepping my sauce. What I'm gonna start with here is about 2 tablespoons or 3 coat the bottom of the pan. To this, I am going to be adding an entire tin of anchovies. In they go with their oil and everything. If you are afraid of anchovies, you think you don't like them, I can guarantee you that you've probably been eating anchovies in many dishes in restaurants and have no idea, because anchovies are a great device to develop quick flavor. When developed and when putting in olive oil and letting to cook for a long time with like other things like garlic and like tomato paste, the flavor of the anchovy kind of disappears, but the intensity, the savoriness remains. So it's gonna be the thing that gives our sauce like personality and depth of flavor. So I'm going to be cooking the olive oil with the anchovies. I'm gonna put it in medium-low heat and stirring regularly. They're gonna completely dissolve eventually in the oil. And then when they do, I am adding my grated garlic. I'm gonna do 2 cloves. I'm gonna let it bloom a little bit. And once it's sufficiently bloomed and, you know, translucent and soft, I'm gonna be adding my tomato paste. The tomato paste is gonna kind of stop the cooking. I'm gonna mix everything up and I'm gonna let it fry in the olive oil. The tomato paste changes and develops so much when fried in olive oil, so that's what I'm gonna do. Season with a little bit of salt, and then when ready, before burning, before, you know, charring anything, I'm adding my passata. My passata is in. It's warming up ever so gently, and now what I need to add is my fresh San Marzano tomatoes. I mean canned San Marzano tomatoes, these are not fresh. So I'm draining first like the liquid, making sure that that falls first, and then I'm grabbing one with my hand and holding it close. I'm just gonna roughly mash it. This is when you should really be wearing an apron, I'm not gonna lie, but do as I say, not as I do. Honestly, squeezing tomatoes with my hand kind of does it for me. It's like weird, but like enticing. All right, our sauce is saucing in the background, and we already have our meat mixture. We are going to get our meat mixture out of the fridge. I'm going to form the balls, but I'm gonna be very gentle with them. I'm not gonna pack them too tightly because I don't like what happens with the meat on a textural level when that happens. I don't feel like it cooks really well, and the meat kind of loses its bite a little bit. I'm not a fan of it. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to broil them. So I wanna get them really nicely dark and brown. The reason why I do that is because it develops flavor right off the bat. Your meatball is gonna be way more flavorful if you brown the outside, because you are getting the Maillard reaction throughout the ball. So it's going to release the fat is going back into the sauce, and the ball's going to the sauce to finish cooking. That's it. They're not supposed to cook for hours and hours and hours, because all that beautiful fat from the beef, from the eggs, from the cheese, that is all going to release, and you're gonna be left with a very dry meatball. So I usually cook them for 15 to 20 minutes. That's enough time for sauce to penetrate the balls to kind of let go of all of their beautiful fattiness, and for everyone to benefit from the other, as it should always be. All right, guys, so these are my balls. They're looking beautiful. I'm seasoning with a little bit of salt on top, just to help them out. By the way, I didn't show you this, but you should always reserve a little bit of mixture and then fry it just to taste it and see if it needs more salt, if it needs more pepper, if it needs more anything. I didn't do that because I developed this recipe. I wrote everything down. I know how it tastes, so I know that they work, but you know, make sure that they are up to your taste. I'm gonna check them after 4 minutes, but they might go for up to 6. Then I'm gonna stick them out, rotate them, and they go back in. 4 minutes have passed, I opened the door, nothing has happened, so I'm doing another 4. Oh my God. But they have developed beautiful color. I cannot express to you how delicious this house smells. So 2 spoons, and I'm just gonna rotate them. Again, these balls are not gonna be balls. They're just not. So I'm gonna rotate them. Okay, back in the oven they go. I think for a lot less time because my oven is way hotter now. Guys, I need to interrupt this very special program to confess something. I just realized that I didn't add pork. I added ground chicken. I'm still gonna cook them. They're gonna be delicious. Like, I'm cooking 2 types of meat, well seasoned with a beautiful sauce. Like, it's gonna taste fine. But the original recipe is with pork. So if you saw my meatballs a little pale, as I was, like at some point while I was flipping them, I was like, why are these so pale? This doesn't make any sense. And I fished out the container from the trash, and it's chicken. So yours is gonna be fattier. Yours is gonna be more flavorful. That being said, I think it's gonna be delicious. Maybe it's blame it on the wine. It's the wine, I'm sorry. Oh my God, they're beautiful. And like, can you do this in a cast iron? Can you like sear them in a very, very hot pan? Of course you can. That would be the more chefy thing to do. You would have more control. You would be flipping them all the time. But like this, I kind of like the method. I have beautifully seared balls, but not cooked in the middle. That's what's important. They're ready to go into our sauce. So I'm using tongs and I'm just dipping them gently into the sauce, into the sauce. I'm gonna let all the juices from the sheet tray drip. My balls are in the sauce. Amazing. They're gonna finish cooking here. They're gonna go back in the heat for 15 to 20 minutes, low simmer. I like to serve my meatballs with a thick slice of like sourdough bread, actually the same campagne loaf that we used for our bread mixture for the balls themselves. Frying it in olive oil in a pan, and then on top, putting in the same ricotta that we didn't finish for our balls. Also, like, isn't it typical that like a recipe will call for like a certain amount of ricotta instead of the entire container? And then you do your recipe and then you're like, what the hell do I do with this ricotta? Well, guess what? This isn't a problem here because we're using the entire thing. I'm just gonna season it in this same bowl. I'm gonna add olive oil and I'm gonna emulsify it with a little bit of vinegar, with a little bit of chili flake and a little bit of parsley stems. So it's gonna be creamy and fresh at the same time. All right guys, dinner time. Meatballs are ready. I am serving on a plate and I'm adding a dollop of the ricotta so that it has a nice creamy base. And then from there I am spooning over maybe a couple of meatballs on top. I'm topping the balls with grated Parmigiano with a little bit of herbs and a little bit of chili flake. That's it, we can eat. It smells incredible, the colors are amazing. The ball is tender. Like, you don't need a knife. I'm using the knife for the bread, but not for the ball. I know it's kind of controversial not to serve them with pasta. I don't need the pasta, like just a piece of bread, that's it. I want the star to be the meatball. I don't want anything to outshine it. Honestly, perfectly seasoned. And the fact that it has this much flavor, given that I use chicken instead of pork, I am surprised. You know, if you don't want to use pork for whatever reason, you can do this with chicken, and the ball itself is so well seasoned and has so much flavor that it works. Honestly, this is so good. I've been to many restaurants that don't have this level of meatballs. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyway, guys, thank you for being here. I hope that you learned a couple of lessons. I hope that you learned that you should buy pork instead of chicken. I don't know. And that meatballs are an incredible device to kind of like get people together and celebrate a special occasion. And honestly, it's a skill that I think that if you have under your sleeve, you won't regret it, because we all need sometimes meatball day. Like, I can't think of a better sign of affection. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next one. Ciao.